Hey everybody, this is Lance. Just a really quick note. Their audio quality this time around is not the best because for some reason, it being a Halloween episode, we could not do anything without a ghost being in the system, and the actual recorded audio got dropped. So this is actually the removed audio from the YouTube video, so I truly apologize for the really bad audio quality. Remember, I am not normally like this. It just happens to be there's a ghost in the machine and she doesn't like me. Anyway, make sure you guys head on over and check out thereisanothernpodcast.com. Check out my other show. I know you guys are going to love it. It's a really great show. Me, James, and Kevin, we talk about movies and television and superheroes and actors and musicians, and you guys will really get a kick out of this other show. It's called There Is Another. You can find it on Google and iTunes. Make sure you guys check it out. It's pretty new. It's really, really fun to listen to. We really crack each other up. I know you guys will love it too. So get your news from us for entertainment and check us out on thereisanothernpodcast.com or check us out on There Is Another Podcast on iTunes and Google. And now let's get on with the show.
Let's give it up.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, vampires and ghouls, you know exactly what time of the year it is. It's everybody's favorite time of the year, the time where you get to dress up and just drive everybody insane begging for sweets and snacks. That is correct. It is Halloween, and we have some amazing stories culled from all around the Global Detection Adventures Facebook group. Some of the scariest things that have happened to everybody, and we are going to go through those and discuss everything. But first, as always, I want to go ahead and thank every single one of you guys. You are the best audience there is in the world. I can't do this without you. You guys have taken the time to actually come by and tune me in. That is one of the most humbling things that ever happens. And more of you are tuning in each week. Thank you so much to every single one of you. If you find me on iTunes and you find me anywhere else, head on over to iTunes and do me a big favor. I really need people to leave comments and ratings right there on the iTunes. Because what that does is that brings us up higher into the charts. The higher I get into the charts, maybe one day I'll be featured on the home page of iTunes, and that would just be fantastic. Could you imagine seeing a metal detecting podcast on the home page of iTunes? That would just be fantastic. But I can't do it without you guys. I am where I am because of you, and now I need to get further. So let's work together and get this going. All right. So go on over to iTunes, leave a comment, leave a review. It doesn't even have to be anything special. You could say roses are red, violets are blue. I like Lance. I hate you. That works for me. It's totally cool. Okay. It doesn't even have to be about the podcast. Just get a review on there and that'll bump it up further up that list. I truly appreciate it, everybody. Right now, just to let everybody know, we're currently 52nd in the Hobbies podcast on Spreaker, which is absolutely fantastic. And it's all because of every single one of you guys. And I'm looking at everybody that's downloading, and I can't really look at you, but you know who you are. You download, listen to it in your car, listen to it in the shower, you listen to it on the fishing boat. I don't care where you're going and doing it. Hell, you might even have it hardwired into your headphones while you're out metal detecting. What do I know? I just thank every single one of you guys for it. So without any further ado, what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to get us a little bit of some, background sound effects going on here because, it's Halloween. There we go. All right. So if you're driving, don't do what I say next. Do not turn your lights down. But if you're sitting in the house and it's dark, turn on the lights and get ready for some unbelievable stories, like I said, culled from all across the GDA site. Now, if any of you ever get a chance to visit Australia, there's one thing that 42 wants you guys to know. There's something called a drop bear. These things are extremely dangerous. Imagine a koala bear that has vampire fangs and claws as sharp as razor blades. And you're out metal detecting, going through the brush and the dirt. And next thing you know, something falls and lands right on your back and claws into you. And it looks like a koala bear, but it's got these nasty fangs. That's right. This is something that everybody can tell you called a drop bear. So make sure you watch out for the drop bears next time you're metal detecting out down in Australia. They're going to sneak up on you and really get you guys. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the stories. Now, I know a lot of you have probably had this happen when you're metal detecting. Maybe not. I don't know. Wildlife is one of the biggest factors we have to face metal detecting, be it from scorpions to snakes to coyotes to bears to wolves, whatever it might be out there. It's out there. We need to watch ourselves while we're metal detecting. You know that. We know that. And so we need to definitely keep an eye out. Now, Brian Young, he let me know that one day he was out metal detecting and he was followed by a pack of coyotes. That would just drive me crazy. You know, that hooping and hollering that the coyotes do and just having that following you around, that would just be crazy. We'll get back to Brian a little bit later as well, but right now I got a couple stories from Gabe Young. Gabe, one of the scariest things that happened to him was when he was, watch out, something's coming. Swamp Thing. Anyway, when Gabe was young, he said he was out and he fell through some ice when he was a child. And underneath the water, there was some very loose mud. And when he fell through, he fell straight in to the water and straight into the mud underneath. And it just began sucking him in and just kept sucking and pulling him down into the mud. And one of the before he could actually get rescued, what happened is that he was up to his neck in the mud, in the icy water before he actually got rescued. I just couldn't imagine that. Just absolutely crazy. We'll get to some of these truly scary ones a little bit later. Kenneth Sutton, he said that there was a load of hyper kids banging on his door late at night one time, and when he opened it, they all started shouting, "Trick or treat, or give us something good to eat. If you don't, we don't care. We'll pull down your underwear." And as they said that, he slowly put the sweets back into his pockets. Sounds like somebody cruising for a little bit of a bruise in there. Kids do not play around when it comes to their candy. You got to watch it there, Kenneth. Barry Henninger, he was digging down to dig a target one day, and he came to face with one of those really thin green snakes. He tried to run backwards and fell flat on his ass, and it scared the crap out of him, he says. Come to find out later that they were harmless, but he hates snakes. And I can totally feel for you. I really do, brother. Barry, I am truly afraid of snakes as well. My response, honestly, is exactly what I would do. I would have, filled my pants with several different bodily functions and screamed like a little girl before running. I cannot stand snakes. That's one of the things I cannot go to Australia for, that and the drop bears. I cannot go to Australia because of those. There's too many snakes, too many snakes. I just can't deal with so many snakes. And, percentage-wise, I believe Australia has the highest percentage of poisonous snakes in the entire world. So Dan Beaver, he said that he bought his house about 10 years ago, and every time he got a new metal detector, he'd go in the backyard and search, and he seemed to always find new treasures. But a few years back, he got a new White's XLT, so he thought he'd have a go. Super deep, about 3 feet down, he found a rusty bread tin and what looked like insulation that was brown and yellow. I was like, that's weird, he said. So he opened the tattered metal box and more of the insulation. And then all of a sudden, a skull of a cat and a collar fell out onto the ground, and other bones as well. Needless to say, he felt horrible and put everything back the way it was, and he refuses to dig that area in the backyard anymore. He has called that part off limits. He is not going back there anymore. Has anybody else dug up any kind of buried pets or anything over the years? I couldn't even imagine what that is, what it's like. I mean, when I was renovating the backyard, people that used to live in this house several years back, they had sheep. And I guess one of the sheep died. So instead of burying it or getting rid of it the actual way, taking it to the vet, which is about 20-minute drive from here, they tore up a small block of concrete, which made it easier for me to clean all the concrete out of the back. But I found out that they buried the sheep right in the back of our house. Needless to say, it's not here anymore. It is gone. It is in that skip that got picked up earlier this week on Monday, and it is in a brand new resting place. I do not want my grandchildren in the backyard digging up bones of sheep anymore, or ever. So, that's going to be one of the worst things that I can imagine, is finding some kind of an old dead buried animal. So we're gonna go down to Patrick. Patrick, in 1972, when he was 7, slept on the top bunk and woke up one night to hear his mother standing at the foot of his bed saying it's time to get up. He looked at the window to see it was still dark outside, and he said, "Mom, it's still dark outside." She said sternly, "Patrick, it's time to wake up." And she turned around and walked right through the wall leading to his mother's room. He was so scared he laid there for a few minutes before getting up and running into his parents' bed by crawling in. I couldn't even imagine that. That is just horrifying. Oh, man, that is just crazy. And remember, everybody, these are all metal detectors. Oddly enough, it seems like all metal detectors have some kind of a foot in the paranormal, which I find really amazing. I've got quite a few. I'll share my stories later on as well. George Delaney, he was in Prague, not too far from where I was at, when he was 13 in 1992. I was not far from Prague in 1992. I was in a town called Vilsek, Germany, and I was definitely a lot older than 13, so I won't be going into that. But in 1992, him and his family were caught in between a riot and a line of police with helmets and shields and batons. Good grief, that is scary. I couldn't even imagine that. He had to take cover in an alley as the crowd started throwing rocks and bottles at the police, and the police started firing off tear gas grenades. Eventually, the line of cops ended up passing them, and they could finally get out of the area safely. Ooh, that's just crazy. Neil Schwartz, here's our first funny one of the day. Neil Schwartz said he was in the woods metal detecting when a canine unit came looking for him because the cop pulled up next to his parked car and saw the White's gun bag in the back seat of his car. Oh, that's pretty funny. It happens. I mean, a lot of people don't understand what we do, and leaving your bag in the back seat of a car, and maybe a cop comes up and they want to see if you're out poaching or anything. So that's pretty funny. Dave DiNatale, Digger Dave, you know him, Dave D, former co-host. He said the scariest thing that ever happened to him was getting married. I think a lot of us men can understand that. I think the women can as well. So we all feel for you, brother, man. Jimmy Zinker, he was detecting a night in a harvested peanut field in South Georgia 3 years ago. It was silent and very dark. The night had no moon, and it was about 11 o'clock at night. He wears a headlamp, one of those lights fastened into a band around his head when he hunts at night, and he's constantly looking around often as he doesn't want anyone walking up on him unseen. And then all of a sudden he gets a good signal, and he drops to one knee and starts digging. I do my usual surrounding check as I dig at about 100 feet distance. I see the reflection of two eyes and something watching me, he says. I can see the span between the eyes is about a foot or so. Whatever this is, it's large. I freeze, and so here we are, locked in each other in a stare down. Me kneeling and starting to tremble a little. I have a pistol, but it's in my truck about 100 feet away in the opposite direction. I'm contemplating what to do. I don't think I can outrun this thing to the truck. 100 feet to it, 100 feet to the truck. And if it is a large animal, it would close that gap really quick. I don't think I could get to the truck and open it and get the weapon, all while not losing sight of my stalker, still watching me intently. So I decide to prepare to fight. I put down my CTX, he says, and positioned my shovel as a defensively tactical posture. And ever so slowly I stood up, keeping my eyes on these eyes. My heart is pounding. And then I realized the identity of my stalker. The two centerline reflectors on the highway I'm hunting next to. That's pretty funny. So he was looking down on the ground, and in the United States on dark roads, what they have is they have reflectors in between both lanes of two lanes roads. So they're small yellow or red reflectors depending upon what's coming up, if there's a sharp corner or sharp curve. And so that's what he was seeing. He was looking at the reflectors in the center lane of the road, and thinking that it was one of his animal stalkers. Richard Samuels replied to him. He said, "I would have freaked out too. My buddy and I were hunting one night in the middle of a field, and he kind of coughed and cleared his throat, and he just about pooped his pants," he said. "I knew there was a bear right on top of me." Oh, I couldn't even imagine that. That's crazy. Hey, Jerry, glad you can join us, brother, man. Going through some of the scary stories people were sharing with us on GDA this week. Just getting into some of the truly scary ones. 42, you know her. She's one of the new wonderful admins on our group. She shared a story with us. She says the most scary thing that she can remember is when she had her first and today, fortunately, the only sleep paralysis. I couldn't even imagine what that's like. Oh, I would just die. I couldn't even imagine that. She said the following: I woke up, but couldn't move, couldn't speak. I was experiencing auditory hallucinations that was loud, screaming noises. I had no idea what was going on, and I was totally freaked out. She said that eventually my body caught up with my brain and woke up, and I learned what had happened. But at the time, it was scary as hell. I couldn't even imagine what a sleep paralysis is like. Any of you guys had sleep paralysis? Leave it in the comments. Let me know. I'd like to know. I've never had it, thank goodness. I couldn't even imagine what this is like. I'd love to see what sleep paralysis was like for others. I mean, I do not want to do it. Jerry Olson shared. Good job joining in right when I was just getting to yours, Jerry. He said that one time he was out metal detecting, and he had his headphones on, and he was detecting an old house site. And as he was swinging, he had the sound of a crying baby in his headphones. Once he took them off, it was gone. Ooh, that's scary. That's freaky right there. I couldn't even imagine that. I mean, I've done some ghost hunting in my time. I've caught some really good EVP, which is electronic voice phenomenon. That's what that stands for. I use electronic recording devices. I don't use cassettes or noise generators or anything else. I just use a straight MP3 voice recorder, and you'll hear my story a little bit later on. I've got two really good ones. I'm going to go up to right here. Marlon Brumbelow, he wrote the following. Years ago, I went to a small lake in the woods behind my parents' house. As I walked up the dam at about 50 yards that night, I saw what I thought was a bear climbing a tree. Now, this is Northwest Georgia, he says, and at that time, they were very rare, and I thought I would step a little closer to have a better look. Bad idea. He saw it looking around the tree at me as it stopped climbing. And after I took only a few steps, it jumped out of the tree and closed the gap between me and it very quickly. He then continues, I was so scared and stunned. I couldn't move. It came to a stop about 10 yards from me, and I could see a white stripe down its nose, very wide and low to the ground, with a mouth full of teeth and growling. It was no bear, but a badger. Not supposed to be in this area, but I found out later they have been spotted. I guess since I had not ran, it decided to stop. It slowly turned while growling and bounded off the bank and back into the woods. He said, I think today how close a call that was. That is unbelievable. That is truly a story that is nerve-wracking. I couldn't even imagine. And then once you realize exactly what this is, yeah, that's a pretty big one. Gabe Young, he's got a really good one. Really, really good one. Gabe Young says the following. When my oldest daughter was about 2 years old, we went to look at a delinquent property as an investment. These are, for those who don't know, these are houses that are going under foreclosure. So they could be going up for sale. The banks could be offering them back up for multiple different reasons. There wasn't anything, there wasn't anyone living there at the time. I kept feeling as though someone was watching us from an attic window. I mentioned it to my wife, who agreed that the place felt a little spooky. And I swear it wasn't even 5 minutes later, my daughter says, "Where'd that lady go?" My wife asked her, "What lady, honey?" She said, "She just stopped and pointed to the attic window and said, 'Up there.'" That was probably the spookiest thing he's ever witnessed in his life. I got goosebumps on that one. Honestly, I really did. That is just horrible. Ugh. Rich Samuel, he comes up with the next one. He says, after hunting a field in Richmond a couple years ago, I came home and saw strange things start happening. Shadows and lights in the condo. I was shook on my shoulder and thought someone was trying to wake me up, but nobody was there. Something smashed into my second floor front door and cracked the frame. I got there so fast, nobody could have gotten away. Nobody there. The final straw was as I was falling asleep one night, I felt the mattress at my feet get pushed down, like somebody had their hands on each side of my feet and started bouncing the mattress. I was looking at my feet bouncing, and it freaked me the hell out. So I had a so-called medium contact me and told me when it happened again to ask whatever was there to please leave me alone. A couple nights later, I felt that hand on my shoulder, and it shook me. I asked it to please leave me alone and go away. Then it never happened again. She seemed to think the spirit attached itself to me at one of the battlefields I was digging in. Whoa. That's just crazy. I know a couple other people that seem to have found had a couple things attached to them while they were out metal detecting. One of our good friends, Laszlo Pete Ellis, while he was out metal detecting, he was taking some photographs. You can hear the true story a couple years ago during Halloween on one of the GDA episodes. And you can see the photographs somewhere. I'll see if I can pull those up. But Pete shared these photographs, and he was taking photographs of the trees because he wanted to remember where he was at the time. And so he was taking photographs, and he saw this tree with a really distinctive knot in the tree, which would be a good sign because he knew that back in the 1800s and earlier, people would obviously use these trees with real distinct features as markers for directions. So he was marking the location, taking a photograph of the tree, and when he looked at the digital photograph, sure enough, in the photograph, you can see a Civil War soldier standing next to the tree. It was just crazy. One of the craziest things I've ever seen. But yeah, I'll see if I can locate those photos for you guys and share those with you. We got some other photos and videos of There was one guy who was out metal detecting. I can't remember who this was. If you're listening, give me a heads up. They were out metal detecting, and they wanted to go back to their truck, and they couldn't get in because the lock and the lights in the truck started blinking on and off and locking and unlocking all on their own. And he couldn't figure out what it was. He had the remote in his hand, and the locks on the door just kept going up and down, up and down, up and down. And the lights, the headlights, all the lights just started blinking like crazy. Really, really unbelievable. We got one of our really good friends, Matt Tomani. He says that the scariest thing that happened to him was when he was out metal detecting, a snake in a tree tried to bite him. Again, it's another one of those fill my pants and run screaming like a little girl. That snake just being near me was enough, or would be enough, for me to go running and screaming and just totally freak out. I could not do it. Stephen Kimball says, I was detecting the cemetery. That was it. We all know that's not good. Don't go to cemetery detecting. That's no good, people. Now, I know my buddy. I got a buddy who's going to love this one. Huntress Kimmy. She says, the scariest thing that ever happened to me. One day, this tall gentleman came up and introduced himself to me. And he turned out to be my husband, Scott. Why do we always talk crap about meeting our significant others? I don't get it. But I thought I'd go ahead and share a couple stories that I got with you guys. For a lot of you who don't know me, I was a hobby ghost hunter. So if you know the TV show Ghost Hunters, you know me. I don't just metal detect, but if I get a chance, I'll go hunt a house and go try and see if I can get any kind of evidence of life after death. One of my true passions, which started in 1999. My wife and family and I moved to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and we stayed in a house that's no longer there. It was at the time it was 5H Dove Place, and that was our address. Since then, they've completely tore it down. They've built brand new houses and condominiums there for the military. Beautiful, beautiful place. But at the time, the houses that we were living in were built in the mid-'60s, renovated in the 70s and 80s. And we knew that they were on their last legs. The heating, the HVU unit, it was a little out of date. The air conditioning was going bad on it, everything else. But after in 2001, we moved to Italy, and that's when the stories started happening. And nobody really wanted to talk to each other about it because we didn't want to freak anyone out. So me and the wife started talking, and we were having a couple drinks, and my son was sitting there. And so I started talking. I was like, well, did I ever tell you guys that I was sitting on the couch? I was watching TV and really kind of intently focused when out of the corner of my eye, I saw somebody come down the stairs, walk past me, and then go into the dining room. And so I looked, but there was nobody there. There was nobody there whatsoever. So I called out. I was like thinking it was my cat. So I called out. I was like, Lucky, Lucky. And next thing you know, the cat comes trudging down the stairs. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I swore he just went into the dining room. So I got up and looked in the dining room. Nobody. And we're talking, it was a small, shadowy figure, came down the stairs, went by me, and went into the dining room where there's a door to the kitchen. And I thought that's what the cat was doing, was going and getting something to eat. Then turns out that my wife, she's like, well, that's crazy. One day I was sitting on the couch. I was like, yeah. And right, we were watching TV, and you were sitting next to me. I was like, okay. And I saw one of the boys look down. We had a double back staircase, so you come down and doubles back and comes down the rest of the way. So she said, I saw one of the boys look at me from around the banister. And she just said, go back to bed. It's late. And not knowing what she was saying, I said, honey, the boys are spending the night down the street. And she just looked at me and never said a word. Never said anything about it. Now, I remember the night because I thought, she's going crazy. But she said, no, it was a straight human young boy's face that was staring at me. And at that, my son started laughing. He's like, Mom, Dad, the house was haunted. They're like, what are you talking about? He's like, there was a time when I was upstairs and we were talking. I was in my room playing, I was upstairs in my room playing. We were by ourselves. Kevin was out somewhere. So I was in the room playing on the floor. And a boy comes up and he's standing in the door and he's like, can I come in and play with you? And Phil says, I don't know who you are. Who are you? No, you can't come play with me. And he said the boy was standing right there in the door and said, okay, turned around, walked away like he was going back down the stairs. He said it was the weirdest thing. He said, and at night, it would there would be a teenager boy. He would be probably in his teenage years, stand at the foot of the bed. And he said, at first, Dad, I thought it was you messing with me, making a joke or something. He said it would be totally dark out. And there would be a figure standing at the foot of my bed with a zipped up hoodie with the hood completely pulled over the head, just looking down so you could not see a face, just standing there at the foot of his bed. And he said so many times, I would scream at him and say, Dad, stop it, Dad, stop it. But it wouldn't go away. And I'd cover my face with a blanket, and then when I'd look again, it'd be gone. And he said, Dad, I swore to this day it was you just messing with me. And I was like, kid, I would never do anything like that to you. Come on now. That would be messed up to do. Trust me, that was not me. And I'm telling you, Kimmy Price, you need to come and try out this wine. This is some good stuff. Get over here, girl. But anyway, pardon me. But anyway, yeah, we did have one. Both me and the wife saw one thing happen that was rather odd. We were sitting there, and oddly enough, we were watching, I think it was Blair Witch Project, right after it came out on video. We were sitting in our dining room, in the family room, watching it. And our backyard, we had a community swing set back there, probably about a good 150 feet behind our yard. And there were 4 swings on it. But yeah, it wasn't far enough where the lights from our family room wouldn't, illuminate it. We could turn on the patio lights and they would illuminate as well. And so we're sitting there watching the movie. And if you remember back in the 90s, 99 or whenever that movie came out, it was truly a freaky movie, one of a kind. I can't watch it without laughing now. But when we saw it, it was a truly horrifying experience. And we're watching it, and all of a sudden we heard the sound of a chain. We're like, what is that? So we paused the movie, and we look out back. It was late. It was like Halloween time or October time. Neither of the boys were home, so we knew they were gone. I think they were staying at a friend's house on the other side of base. And so we walked outside. And like I said, there were 4 swings on this. And we turned on the patio lights, and we look, and 2 swings, only 2, are going. And they're not going at the same time. They're going opposite. So one would swing forward, the other coming back. And we're just sitting there watching this for a while. And it wasn't that somebody just jumped off them. They were going for a good 5 minutes, and they weren't slowing down. It's not like somebody just came off and stopped. They truly were swinging on their own. And needless to say, we did not return the movie to Blockbuster Video the next day. And for those who don't know what Blockbuster Video is, that was one of the greatest places to get rental movies in the entire world until we started getting streaming services. You know, internet killed the video star. Does that even ring a bell with anyone? Did I just really, truly show my age on that one? But anyway, so yeah, I got into ghost hunting and went over to Italy. Did some stuff, kind of looked there at some haunted places. Never really got into it. And then the TV show came out, and I was like, you know what? I could do that. I could actually get all this equipment and start going and doing it. And that's what I did. Found some other people who were kind of like-minded, and we found a place that's not too far from where I'm at right now, probably 20-minute drive. Talked with the owner. He was one of the royal family of Bavaria. Now, Germany doesn't have a king or queen since the end of World War II, World War One, but they still do have the royal family. The royal family does have property and housing and everything else. It's just now it's a democratic society, but the royalties are still around. So I talked with him. His name was Fürstbischof von Schönborn. And so I sent him a message, and I talked about a farmhouse that was theirs at the turn of the 20th century. Really large place. It had the main house, which was 3 stories tall, probably a good 6,000 square feet. You had the servants' quarters, which was 3 stories tall, which was probably a good 2,000 square feet. Then you had 3 large barn buildings. And they were all falling into dilapidation. The main house is the one that we were concerned about. That's the one we wanted to look into. So me and about 4 friends, we drove out there, and so we went into the place. Well, we didn't actually go inside. The prince, he wouldn't give us the permission to go in there. So we had to do it from the outside of the building, but we could still access the windows and everything else. So when we got there, the first thing I noticed is that the ground floor was intact. The floor on the ground floor was intact, and then there was a cellar, which we had windows that we could look into as well. But when you look through the ground floor windows and look up, you were looking straight through what should have been the roof. All the floors had been completely rotted through. The attic, the ceiling had completely collapsed. Everything had fallen in. So there was no floor whatsoever on the 2nd and 3rd floor. So we started with audio recording down in the window to the ground floor. So I put an audio recording. And one of the things that I do is I don't believe in asking questions too much. I will do it. But with ghost hunting, I like to let, this sounds really weird, I like to let the spirits take care of themselves. And leave it in a natural state. So I let the recorder go, and I was just looking around the house. I wasn't going too far away from the recorder. So I had a video camera in my hand, and I was recording the field. And so there was a very large wheat field that was right next to it. And so I'm recording it. And at the same time, I had that feeling, you know, when the hairs on the back of your neck stand up because you know someone's staring at you. That was the feeling I got. So I turned around thinking that some of the other people that had come to investigate the place with me had shown up. And I looked, and there was nobody on the ground. But when I looked up, on the third floor window, there was a very small girl, just the face of a very small girl looking at me with extremely long, straight blonde hair. I mean, straight and very long. We're talking a good 3 feet long blonde hair. I mean, her hair was probably as long as she was tall. And she was slowly pulling her head back into the window, and I'm trying to get the camera around, and as I do, the last of the hair pops behind it, and I have nothing on camera. So I ran to the house to look up into what I thought a small girl was standing on some kind of a platform or something above me inside the house, and there was nothing. There is no platform at all inside the house. That little girl was not in that house when I looked around. So I stopped the audio recording after marking the time. I said, I picked up their recorder and I said, I just saw this happen. Came back home. I wish I could share with you guys this audio. It's a long story. So when I listened to the audio, right at the same time that I noticed the small girl in the window above, you can hear the faint sounds of a man talking and a small girl replying. You can't make out what they're saying, but you can hear it like down a very long hallway, like that. That kind of a sound way down the hallway. And you can hear it echoing as it's coming to the recorder. And then all of a sudden you hear a piano. The piano just goes ding, 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 ding. And that's right when you hear me running up to the house. It was the freakiest thing I've ever seen in my life. And trying to explain this to people is truly a really hard thing to do. I really want you guys to know that I do believe from firsthand experience, and I know others do as well, there's something going on out there that we just can't explain, which gives the true meaning to paranormal. This is our Halloween episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me. Next week, we're going to be back. We're not going to be live next week. Just to let you know, we got a very special guest coming out of Australia. I'm going to be getting in touch with him. I'm hoping he's going to say yes to it. I'm going to have to record our interview on Saturday so that I can play it for you guys live on Sunday. So nobody will be able to ask him questions. We're just going to be able to, give you the interview and the talk and everything as we talk about metal detecting in New South Wales and Queensland and everywhere else down there, down under. And we'll talk with him. Maybe we'll even get 42 on the mic. Okay, sorry, that's one of my worst Australian accents. I won't do that anymore. I promise you that. 42 and our guest for next week, Jacob. Jacob Orr, digging Australia. Hopefully getting him on the show. Jacob, I've most likely gotten in touch with you by now. Make sure you get in touch with me, brother, man. Let's get you on the show. Been so long. Man, I don't even think you were a teenager by the time we got you on the show the first time. So we'll get him on the show, update, and find out what's going on down under. And might even have a beer with you guys as we listen to this. It's going to be a really great show. But until then, make sure you guys head on over to Global Detection Adventures on iTunes. Leave a review. Leave a comment on GDA Radio Podcast. Make sure you check that out. Leave a review, leave a comment, help us out with that really catawampus rating system that they got. Get us up higher in that rating. get us, and let's see if we can get a metal detecting podcast up on that top 50 or top 100 list. That would be really cool. I would love to be the guy to do that. Doesn't have to be me. And be on the lookout very soon for our friends over at XP Team USA. The XP Team USA podcast will be starting very soon. It is going to be, it is shaping up. I can honestly tell you this, to be a truly fantastic show. They are really doing some amazing things. I can't wait to share this with you guys because honestly, I think the GDA radio podcast is going to be one of those really good ones. Now, the guys running the show are, well, the one is going to be Dave Kimball and David Kimball. Make sure you check it out. You guys are going to love David. If you like the GDA radio podcast, you're going to love Dave Kimball. And make sure you check out our other guys, DA Frank Lapergolo over at Detect America. Make sure you also check out a lot of the other guys, other podcasts. You truly do. You really do support a lot of us, and it's just unbelievable what you guys do. Make sure you check out Beyond Sight and Sound. Like I said, I'm trying to remember some of these podcasts. I really want to give everybody their due credit because they truly do some really amazing podcasts, and I listen to a lot of them as well. And I really think that you guys should give them the support and the love that you guys give me, and make sure that you check out. Where is it? Comedy, education, entertainment, family, fitness and health, movies, foods and drinks, news, global, kids, music. Oh, sorry. This is just great podcasting right here. I just can't believe this stuff is going on. I'm trying to remember some of these shows. I'm so sorry, everybody. I can't remember everything. But let me try this. Beyond Sight and Sound, Detect America. Make sure you check them out on Facebook as well. They got a really good show on Facebook. All Metal Mode, check them out as well. Really good shows. Really love them. All right. But that's it, everybody. Make sure you check out my other show if you're into movies and television. There is Another is the name of it. You can find it on iTunes and just anywhere that you can get podcasts. Sorry to ramble on at the end. You guys know who you are. You're the best audience in the world. I am the most talkative mother there is. It is Halloween. Make sure that you guys get out there. Make sure that you guys dig it up. And you know what I say, everybody. We'll see you guys out on the field. Let's dig it up, y'all.
Let's dig it up. give it up, y'all.